How was your day? Maybe someone had already decided who you were before you'd done a single thing, decided it quietly, and moved on. There's a boy in the old Irish stories who was born already marked. His father killed, his name hidden, raised in secret. His name was Fionn. If today felt a little like that, he'd understand. So let yourself settle now. The air here is cool and damp. There is a river moving slowly in the dark, and an old fire burning low on its bank. Come and sit by it. And here's the moment everything turns on. A fish on a spit, a boy's thumb pressed to a rising blister of fat, a small burn, and a mouth moving without thinking. In that small accident, all the wisdom of the world poured into one boy who had never asked for it. Stay with that. We will come back to it slowly. Because here's the strange thing. The old poet had waited 7 long years for that fish. He had earned it. He had given his whole life to it, and it slipped past him in a heartbeat. What do you do when the thing you waited your whole life for goes to someone else? And what does the someone else do, holding a gift far too heavy for his years? That is the quiet question under this old story. Not who deserves wisdom, but what happens to the one who simply accidentally receives it. Maybe you know that question too. This is what we do here. Every week, one old story, one night. Something that happened long ago and somehow still knows something about now. So get comfortable now. Loosen your shoulders. Let the pillow take the weight of your head. If you drift off before the end, the old river will keep flowing. It always has. This is only the beginning. The catch, the burn, the long road after, all of that is still ahead, but not tonight. Tonight we only begin. If this kind of quiet feels good tonight, subscribe. We'll be here next week. Another story, another night like this one. Now, back to the river. It begins with an old man who already knew how this would end, a poet named Finnegas. For years he had lived alone in a hut above one quiet bend of the river. He had not chosen that bend by chance. A prophecy had sent him there. Somewhere in this pool, he had been told, swam a salmon unlike any other. Eat that fish, the prophecy said, and you will know everything there is to know. Every art, every secret, every road not yet walked. Finnegas wanted that more than he wanted rest. And into this old man's long, patient waiting, one evening a boy came walking up the riverbank, fair-haired, quiet, carrying nothing but a name he could not yet say aloud. The old man looked at the boy for a long moment. He did not know it yet, but the river had just sent him both the end of his waiting and the reason it would never be his. Stay here a while. The fire is warm, the water is slow, and the story is only beginning to breathe. Let us learn first who this boy was and why the world had marked him so young. Before he was Fionn, the bright one, he was only Demne, a small word for a small boy. And before he could even hold that name, his father was already gone, killed in a battle the boy would never remember. His father had led a great band of warriors. Other men wanted that power, and they took it the only way they knew. So the child was born into a debt of blood he had not asked for. Maybe you know how that weight arrives early. His mother could not keep him. To love him in the open was to mark him for death. So she did the hardest thing a mother can do. She gave him away to keep him alive. 2 women took him, a druidess named Bodmal, sharp-eyed and gray, and a warrior woman named Leith Luachra, broad-shouldered and scarred. Between them, deep in the hills, they hid a king's son and called him nothing special. They raised him the way you raise something you must not lose. He learned to run before he learned to read, to go silent in the bracken, to listen to the woods the way other children listen to a lullaby. Bodmal taught him the names of things, which leaf healed, which berry killed, which star pointed home. She did not waste words. When she spoke, he remembered. That is its own kind of love. Leith Luachra taught him the harder lessons, how to hold a spear without fear, how to fall and rise, how to lose again and again until losing taught him something winning never could. There is a story they tell of him then, that he raced the wild deer through the hills and ran them down, that no boy his age could match his speed. The hills made him quick. Being hunted makes you quick. But a hidden boy cannot stay hidden forever. There is a hunger in the young to be seen, to test themselves against the wide world, and the wide world for him was full of men who wanted him dead. The 2 women knew this day would come. When he had grown tall and quick and restless, they did not hold him. They had kept him alive long enough to choose his own road. That was the whole of their work. And so he walked out of the hills alone. No name he could safely speak, no home he could safely claim, only fast feet, sharp eyes, and a head full of names for things. Maybe you've set out like that too, lighter than you wanted to be. He wandered for a long time. He took small work where he could. He kept his head down and his name behind his teeth. And everywhere he went, he listened, because he was looking for one thing. He wanted to learn. In that old world, the wisest people were not the kings. They were the poets, the Fili, men and women who held in their memory the whole history of the land, its laws, its stars, its hidden meanings. To become a poet took years, 12 years, some said, learning the meters and the meanings, the hundreds of tales. It was the longest road a person could choose, and Fionn, fatherless and nameless, chose it. He asked in his quiet way where the greatest teacher might be found, and the answer always bent toward the same place, toward one old poet on one quiet river who had given up the world for a single fish. They told him the poet's name was Finnegas, and they said it the way people say the name of someone half mad and half holy. He had been waiting on that river, they said, for longer than seemed wise. So the boy turned his feet toward the Boyne, and here the two halves of this story finally leaned toward each other. The one who had waited his whole life, and the one who had only just begun. Now turn back to the old man for a moment, because to understand why this matters, you have to understand what waiting had done to Finnegas, what it had given him, and what it had quietly taken. Long ago, Finnegas had been a poet like any other, skilled, respected, full of words. But one day, in a grove much like this, he heard a prophecy, and after that, no ordinary life would do. The prophecy was simple and impossible to forget. Somewhere in the river of Boyne swam a salmon that had eaten the nuts of wisdom, and whoever ate that salmon first would carry all knowledge for the rest of their days. All knowledge. Think what that means to a poet, to a man whose whole life is the chasing of meaning. It was not gold he wanted, it was understanding, the one thing that always stays just out of reach. So he found the pool the prophecy spoke of, this pool ringed with hazels, where the river ran deep and slow. He built his hut above it, and he began to wait. He did not yet know how long waiting could be. Here is where the rule of the story takes shape. The salmon would not be caught easily. It could not be. A wisdom worth having is never cheap. And so the prophecy carried its own quiet cruelty inside it. There was a second rule, too, spoken in the prophecy. The salmon would only be caught by a Finn, a bright one, a fair one. And Finnegas had taken that name to himself, sure it pointed to him. Names can fool even the wise. Do you see the trap already closing? He had read the prophecy as a promise to himself. But prophecies are slippery things. They tell the truth in a language you only understand after it is too late. Year after year, the seasons turned over that pool. Spring floods, summer low water, the red leaves of the hazels falling, and still no salmon, still the old man crouched at the bank, line in hand. The waiting changed him. It bent his back and whitened his beard, but it also made him still in a way most people never become. He learned the river the way Fionn had learned the hills, by being held by it. People thought him foolish, a poet who could have sat at any king's table, crouching in the mud for a fish that might not exist. But Finnegas had stopped caring what people thought a long time ago. Some say a thing waited for too long can sour into bitterness. But the river had not soured him, it had emptied him instead. By the time the boy arrived, Finnegas had almost forgotten he was even still waiting. And then, on an ordinary evening, footsteps came up the riverbank, light footsteps, young ones. Finnegas did not turn at once. The river had taught him not to startle at small sounds. When at last the old man looked up, he saw a fair-haired youth with steady gray-blue eyes, polite, quiet, asking in a low voice if a poet might take a student. Finnegas felt something he had not felt in years, curiosity. He asked the boy his name, and the boy, careful as ever, gave only part of the truth. He said he was called Demne. He did not say whose son he was. Some secrets you carry until the right moment finds them. The old man studied him a while. He saw the quickness in him, the listening stillness, the hunger to learn that he himself had carried once. And he made a choice that would unmake his whole life's waiting. He said yes. That night, for the first time in a long time, there were two voices by the fire. The old man spoke of meters and meanings. The boy listened, the way he had learned to listen to everything, and the river ran on outside. The boy did not know about the salmon yet. The old man did not speak of it that first night. Some teachers keep the deepest reason hidden, even from the one who will fulfill it, especially from them. Morning came gray and soft over the water, and the boy woke to find the old man already gone from the hut. He stepped outside and saw him down at the pool, crouched, still, watching the dark water for something. Every morning was the same. Before the lessons, before the food, the old man went to the pool and watched. The boy did not ask why. He had been raised by people who did not waste questions. He simply began to watch too. And slowly, over the first days, the boy began to feel that this pool was not like other pools. There was a weight to its stillness, a held breath, as if the water itself were keeping a secret it longed to give away. One evening, the boy finally asked, not what the old man was fishing for. He asked something gentler. He asked why this pool? Why here? Why a whole life spent on one bend of one river? And the old man, for the first time, told him about the prophecy, about the salmon, about the nuts of wisdom and the well at the river's source. The boy listened, and his gray eyes went wide and far. To understand what the old man told him, you have to go further back than either of them, past the pool, past the prophecy, to a hidden well at the very source of the river, ringed with 9 sacred trees. Here is something the stories never quite explain out loud: why the Irish believed wisdom lived in water. Stay with this, it is the quiet heart of the whole tale. At the source of the Boyne, they said, stood a well that no ordinary person could find. Around it grew 9 hazel trees, older than memory, and hazel, to the old Irish, was the tree of deep knowing. Each autumn the 9 trees dropped their nuts into the well, and in each nut was a drop of all the wisdom in the world, every art, every truth, everything worth knowing, sealed in a hard red shell. And in that well lived the salmon. They ate the falling nuts, and each nut became a bright spot on their silver skin. 7 nuts, 7 spots. The wisest creature in the water, swimming slow circles around the source of everything. So the river did not just carry water down from that well. It carried wisdom downstream, all the way to the sea. And one of those salmon, the wisest of all, had swum down into this very pool. That was the secret of the place. When the old man finished telling it, the fire had burned low. The boy sat very still. He understood now what those silent mornings meant. The old poet was not fishing. He was waiting at the door of all knowledge. From that night on, the boy watched the pool differently, not as water, as a closed hand that might one day open. And without meaning to, he began to want the salmon caught for the old man's sake. The days settled into a shape, mornings at the pool, long afternoons of learning. The boy soaked up the poet's craft the way dry earth takes rain. He had a memory like the river itself, nothing washed away. The old man was a hard teacher, but a fair one. He made the boy say each tale back word for word. He corrected a single wrong syllable. And the boy never complained. He had been taught to value what was rare. In the evenings they ate simply, oat bread, river fish, water from a clay cup, and they talked. Not lessons then, just 2 people, one old and one young, finding they were less alone than before. The boy never spoke of his father, the old man never asked. But sometimes Finnegas looked at the fair hair and the quick gray eyes, and a thought brushed past him, too strange to hold. He let it go each time. As the weeks passed, the old man let the boy come closer to the pool. He showed him how to read the water, where the salmon might lie, how a single wrong shadow could send it deep for a day. And here's a thing the story wants you to notice. The old man was teaching the boy how to catch the very salmon that would undo him. He could not have known, but the river perhaps did. Some nights the boy dreamed of the salmon. He saw it circling in dark water, the 7 spots like 7 small fires, and in the dream it turned its old steady eye on him, as if it had been waiting for him, not the poet. He never told the old man those dreams. They felt like a kind of theft, even unspoken. The salmon was Finnegas's hope. The boy would not even dream of taking it. So he kept the dreams folded away inside himself. Season turned toward autumn. The hazels began to redden, and the old man grew restless in a way the boy had not seen before. as if some long clock inside him had begun, at last, to chime. He said little, but he watched the water longer each day. He cast his line with a care that bordered on prayer. Something in him sensed that the long waiting was bending, finally toward its end. The boy felt it too. A kind of charge in the air, the way the woods go quiet before something large moves through them. He had grown up reading that silence, and the river was full of it now. One gray morning, the old man did not come back to the hut for the midday meal. The boy went down to the pool and found him crouched lower than ever, utterly motionless, his eyes locked on a single spot of dark water. The boy did not speak. He did not move. He lowered himself to the bank and became as still as the old man. Two figures, and one dark pool, and somewhere in it, something ancient beginning at last to rise. We will leave them there for now, at the very edge of the long-awaited moment. Two patient people, one rising fish. And the whole weight of a prophecy about to tip, quietly, the wrong way. But before the line goes tight, let the old man rest a moment longer. Because there is one more thing to understand about him, about how much he had given, and how gently he carried it. He had given up comfort. A warm hall, a king's favor, the easy respect of his craft. He had traded it all for mud and cold and the thin chance of one fish, and he had never once, in all those years, called it a sacrifice. That is the kind of man he was, and it matters, because of what is about to happen. The story will not be fair to him, and it will be his own goodness that makes it so. Remember that for later. And the boy, what of him, in this last quiet hour? He was happier than he had been since the hills. He had a teacher, a purpose, a place. For the first time, no one was hunting him. He felt almost ordinary. He loved it. He did not know that his whole life was about to change again, that the ordinary days were nearly over. He only knew that the morning was gray and soft, and his teacher was crouched at the water, and something was rising. The old man's hands tightened on the line, so slowly, a lifetime of patience held in two knotted fists. The boy saw his teacher's whole body lean toward the water, like a tree bending to its own falling. And there, just under the surface, the boy saw it for the first time with his waking eyes, silver and bronze, longer than his arm, 7 dark spots along its side, like the dream had promised, the salmon of knowledge. For one heartbeat, the whole world held still. The hazels, the mist, the 2 men, the fish, and then the line sang tight, and the surface of the pool burst into white and silver, and the long waiting broke open at last. But that is the next part of the story, and it deserves its own slow telling. The catch, the fire, the one small rule, and the burn that changed everything. We will come to all of it, gently. For now, let the moment hang there, half caught, full of hope. The old man's dream rising into the light at last. He does not yet know how the prophecy will read itself. In this moment, he is simply happy. And the boy stands beside him, ready to help, asking nothing for himself. He wants only for his teacher to have this. That is the truth of him in this hour. He is innocent of everything that is about to follow. So we leave this file here, on the very lip of the catch. 2 good people, 1 impossible fish, and a prophecy that has waited as long as the poet, ready now to spring its quiet, accidental trap. If your eyes are growing heavy now, let them. You do not have to see the salmon landed tonight. The river will hold the moment for you. It has held it for 1,000 years. It can hold it a little longer. Picture the 2 of them once more. The old poet bright with hope, the fair-haired boy helping without wanting, and between them the wisest creature in the world, lifting at last into the morning air. That is where we pause, with wisdom held in 2 trembling arms, and no one yet aware which hands it will truly fall to. Rest now. The fire and the catch and the burn are waiting just ahead. When we left them, the great salmon was rising into the air, but a fish like that does not give itself up so easily. As the old man's arms closed around it, it gave one mighty twist, and the fight truly began. The salmon plunged back into the dark water, and the line screamed out between the old man's fingers. He cried out, not in pain, but in a kind of fierce joy. After 7 years, the fish was finally his to lose. The boy threw himself down beside his teacher and caught the line too. 4 hands now, holding the wisest thing in the world by a thread of woven gut. Below them, the salmon dove for the bottom and the safety of the deep. It fought like something that knew exactly what it was. Not a panicked animal, but an old, deliberate strength, testing them, learning them, looking for the moment they would tire. And the morning wore on toward noon. The old man did not let the boy take the whole weight. This was his fight earned across a lifetime, but he was glad of the young hands beside his own. For the first time, the waiting was not a thing he did alone. Slowly, slowly, the salmon began to tire. Each run for the deep was a little shorter, each turn a little slower. The old man felt it through the line the way you feel a fever break. The end was coming. He hardly dared believe it. He drew it in, hand over patient hand. The bright shape rose through the dark water, closer, closer, and then it lay at the surface, gleaming and spent, its great tail moving only in slow, tired sweeps. Together they lifted it from the water and laid it on the soft grass of the bank. It was longer than the boy's whole arm. Its silver bronze flank rose and fell, and the 7 dark spots shone there, plain as a signature. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The old man simply knelt there in the grass, one hand resting lightly on the silver side, and wept. 7 years, and here it was, breathing under his palm. Maybe you know that kind of weeping. The boy looked away, to give him the moment. He understood, even at his age, that some joys are too large to be watched. He gazed instead at the river, running on as if nothing at all had changed. At last the old man rose, his knees stiff, his face wet and shining. He looked at the boy, and then at the fish, and a great tiredness came over him. The waiting was done. He scarcely knew what to do with himself now. But the prophecy was not finished with him. Catching the salmon was only half of it. To gain the wisdom, the fish had to be cooked and tasted, and the old man suddenly was bone-weary, his hands shaking, his eyes blurred with tears and age. And here, so quietly you might miss it, the trap of the prophecy began to close. The old man needed help. He had a willing student at his side, and cooking a fish is a simple thing. What could possibly go wrong? But that question, what could go wrong, is the hinge the whole tale turns on. So let us not rush to it. Let us first sit with the old man's joy a while longer. He has earned every quiet minute of it. They carried the salmon up to the hut together, the old man cradling its head, the boy its tail. It was heavy with more than its own weight. They both felt it, as if they carried something that did not quite belong to the daylight world. They built up the fire on the bank outside the hut, not inside, in the smoke and dark, but out in the open by the river, where the salmon had come from. It felt right to cook it within sight of its own water. The old man cut 2 forked sticks and set them either side of the fire. Across them he laid a long spit of green wood. This was how the salmon would be cooked, slowly, carefully, turned by hand again and again until done. But as he knelt to spit the fish, his old hands betrayed him. They shook too hard. His eyes swam. A whole life of waiting had drained out of him in that one fight, and now he had nothing left for the careful work. He sat back on his heels and let out a long breath. He looked at the boy across the fire, and he made the small, reasonable, fateful decision that the prophecy had been waiting 7 years for him to make. "Cook it for me," he said. "My hands are no good tonight. You have a steady touch. Turn it slow, keep it whole." And then he leaned close and added the one rule that mattered most of all. "Whatever you do," he said, "do not taste it. Not a flake, not a crumb. Not even to test if it is done. This fish is not yours to taste. Promise me that." And the boy, of course, promised. Why would he ever break it? Here is the part the old stories never make obvious. The boy meant to keep that promise with his whole heart. There was no greed in him, no scheming. He wanted only to serve his teacher well. And still it would not be enough. The old man, satisfied, rose and went a little way off. He was too tired to sit by the fire. He would rest a while in the hut, he said, and the boy should call him the moment the fish was cooked through. Then they would eat it together. And so the boy was left alone with the fire, the river, and the wisest fish in the world. He settled the spit across the forks and began, slowly and carefully, to turn it. The skin hissed softly. The good smell rose. He kept his promise close. The light went out of the sky slowly. The river turned from gold to gray to black, and the boy turned the fish and turned it, his hands sure and his heart easy. He had no idea he was sitting at the very turning point of his life. We will leave the fish on the fire a moment, half cooked, and the boy turning it in the dark. because before the burn comes, there is more to feel here. The shape of a promise, the weight of a trust, the thinness of the line we walk without knowing. Think of the old man, resting in the hut, certain at last that his life's work was nearly done. He had handed the final task to the one person he trusted. He slept, perhaps for the first easy time in 7 years. And think of the fish itself, the wisest creature in the world, lying now on a spit of green wood. Did it know? Did some last drop of its old awareness understand where its wisdom was about to go, and to whom? These are the questions the old story leaves open. It does not answer them. It simply lays them down beside the fire and lets them glow there, like coals. You can warm your hands at a good question. You do not have to solve it. The boy turned the fish, the fire settled. An owl called once across the river and went quiet, and the night deepened around the small bright circle of the flames, holding its breath for what it knew was coming. But that final moment belongs to the next part of the story. For now, the salmon cooks, the old man sleeps, and the boy keeps his careful watch. Everything is still all right. Everything is still whole. Hold that, gently, a little longer. Let us step back from the fire for a while, and breathe. You have come a long way into this story tonight. The boy without a name, the poet without rest, the salmon without equal. And now the fire and the waiting. If you are still awake, that is all right, and if you are drifting, that is all right too. The story will keep it as kept for 100 generations. It can hold your place until tomorrow night or the night after. Because this is a story that has been told beside 1,000 fires before this one, and that is no small thing. Before there were books, there were nights like this, a voice in the dark, and a tale handed gently from one set of ears to the next. The boy in our story was learning to be one of those voices, a poet, a carrier of tales. He did not yet know that he himself would become one of the most told tales of all, that children would still speak his name 3,000 years on. He thought of the tales the old man had taught him, the heroes, the kings, the gods beneath the hills. He had learned them word for word, and he wondered sometimes who had first spoken them, by what fire, in what forgotten dark. That is the strange magic of a story carried only by voice. It has no single author. It belongs to everyone who ever told it, and everyone who ever listened. It grows and shifts, and yet somehow stays itself, like a river. And so the boy turned the fish, and kept the old tales turning in his mind, and the two became one slow motion in the firelit dark, cooking and remembering, keeping a fish whole, keeping a story whole, the same patient work. The fire spat once and settled. The boy added a little turf, and the flames grew. The smell of the cooking salmon was good now, rich and warm. His stomach turned with hunger, but he remembered his promise, and did not even let himself look too long. He turned his eyes to the river instead, out there in the dark, where the salmon had lived its long, slow, wise life. He felt a strange tenderness for the fish, even as it cooked, a sorrow almost, as if something precious were ending. That tenderness mattered. It is part of why the story has lasted. The boy did not see the salmon as a prize. He saw it as a life, and a person who can feel that, even while hungry, even while tired, is a person worth giving wisdom to. Perhaps that is the prophecy's secret answer. Perhaps the salmon was never meant for the one who wanted it most. Perhaps it was always meant for the one who could hold it most gently. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. The night was at its deepest now. The owl had long gone silent. The old man slept on in his hut, and the salmon was almost cooked. Its skin had darkened to a deep bronze. A faint sheen of fat had begun to gather along its back. The boy felt a small flicker of pride. He had done it well. The fish was whole, evenly browned, beautiful. His teacher would be pleased. Soon he would wake him, and they would eat together, and the old man's long dream would be complete. He reached out to give the spit one last, careful turn. Just one more. To brown the last pale edge along the salmon's back. A small thing, the smallest of motions, the kind no one would ever think twice about. And that is exactly where we will pause, with his hand reaching out, with the smallest of motions about to be made. Because everything is about to turn on it. But not tonight. Tonight, his hand only reaches. Let your breath slow now, in time with the river. There is no hurry. The hand will reach, and the fish will turn, and the rest will follow, when it follows. For now, just the warm fire, and the dark water, and the held breath of the night. We have come to the very edge of the turning now. The catch is made, the fire is built, the rule is given, the hand is reaching. All the pieces of the old story stand in their places, waiting for one small, accidental touch. But before that touch, let us stop and think, just for 5 quiet breaths, about how a story like this even reached us at all. About the long, unbroken chain of voices that carried it here, to this room, to this night, to you. The old Irish had no books for this. For hundreds of years, every tale, every law, every name was held in living memory alone. The poets were the libraries. Their minds held what no fire could burn and no flood could drown. That is why the prophecy promised wisdom, not gold. In that world, to know was the greatest wealth of all. A poet who held the tales held the soul of the people, and the salmon of knowledge was the dream of that power given flesh and fin. To learn it all took most of a lifetime, years of sitting in the dark, repeating, until the words were as much a part of you as your own breath. It was slow, it was hard, and it bound the generations together like nothing else. And so when you hear this tale tonight, you are the newest link in a chain thousands of years long. The same wonder that held those listeners by their fires holds you, in your bed now. Maybe that is its own kind of wisdom, quietly given. So the boy by the fire was not only cooking a fish, he was standing inside that long chain, holding it, about to be changed by it. And now, gently, we return to him, to the fire, to the reaching hand, to the small motion that turns the world. His fingers closed around the greenwood spit. He lifted it gently to turn the salmon's pale edge down toward the flame. The fish was hot, the wood was warm, and all of it was going exactly to plan. For one more breath, all was well. But as the salmon turned, the heat reached a pocket of fat beneath its skin, and the skin swelled. A blister rose along the salmon's back, round and bright and shining, pushing up under the boy's watchful eye. The boy saw it and frowned. A blister would mar the skin, spoil the look of the fish he had cooked so carefully. His teacher's prize should be perfect. Without thinking, without any thought at all, he reached out one thumb to press it flat. And that small, kind, thoughtless motion is the turning point of the whole story. We will let his thumb hang there one moment more, just above the blister, because once it touches down, nothing will ever be the same again. Think of how small it is. Not a betrayal, not a theft, not greed or pride or any grand sin. Just a boy trying to keep a fish neat for his teacher. The hinge of fate, it turns out, is often something this small. How many turning points in your own life were that small? A door you happened to open, a word you happened to say, a thumb you happened to press. We almost never see them coming. The story knows this. It has always known this. So we leave the thumb there, hovering, and the boy bent over the fire, and the old man asleep, and the whole long chain of voices waiting to see what they always knew would happen. The press, the burn, the gift, the cost, all of it, just ahead. For now, let the moment be still and whole. Let your eyes rest. The salmon is warm, the fire is low, the boy is careful and kind, and somewhere in the dark water the river goes on, patient as ever, carrying its old wisdom down to the sea. We are very close now to the heart of it, the moment that gave Fionn his wisdom, the moment that took the poet's dream, the moment that the old stories have kept burning for 3,000 years, around 1,000 fires, just like this one. But the heart of a story should never be rushed, so we will take it slowly. In the next part of the telling, the press, the hiss, the sudden pain, the thumb at the mouth, and then the whole world opening at once. If you are still with me, breathe slow. If you are drifting, drift. The boy will press the blister whether you watch or not. The wisdom will pour into him all the same, and the river will keep flowing, as it always has. Let us draw close again to the fire. The boy's thumb still hovers above the bright blister on the salmon's back. His mind is full of nothing but care, his promise is whole, his heart is easy, and then gently he presses down. The blister burst. A drop of scalding fat leapt up and struck his thumb. The pain was sudden and bright, a small white star of it. He gasped, and his hand flew, by pure animal instinct, toward his mouth. And there it is, the whole prophecy, fulfilled in less than a heartbeat. His scalded thumb pressed to his lips, a trace of the salmon's hot fat on his skin, and without his ever choosing it, the first taste of the salmon of knowledge in his mouth. For one frozen moment, nothing happened at all. Just a boy, sucking a burned thumb by a fire, as anyone would. And then, like a floodgate lifting, the wisdom of the world came pouring into him, all at once, more than any mind was built to hold. He saw everything. The names of all things, the roots of all rivers, the fates of kings not yet born, the reason the hazel weeps its nuts into the well. It crashed through him like a wave, and he gasped beneath it, eyes wide and shining. And then the wave settled. The light in his eyes steadied to a calm, deep glow. He lowered his thumb from his mouth and looked at it. This ordinary thumb that had just remade him. He understood now exactly what had happened, and what it would cost. Because the wisdom told him this too. It told him whose dream he had just taken. It told him that the old man asleep in the hut had waited 7 years for what had just fallen, by accident, to a boy who never asked for it. And so the boy's first act of wisdom was not joy. It was grief. He sat back down by the fire, the great knowledge quiet in him now, and he wept for the old man, for the gift he had stolen without ever meaning to steal a thing. That grief is the first climax of our tale. Not a battle, not a triumph. A boy by a fire, holding all the wisdom of the world and wishing, with his whole new heart, that he could give it back. But wisdom, once tasted, cannot be returned. He sat for a long time. The fire burned down. The salmon finished cooking, untouched now, its purpose already spent. And the boy gathered himself and wiped his face, and knew there was only one thing he could do. He had to go and wake his teacher. He had to tell the old man what had happened. He could not hide it, the wisdom would not let him, and his own honest heart would not let him either. He would have to walk into that hut and break the dream of the man who had taught him. There is courage in that, you know? Not the courage of battle, the harder kind. The courage to carry bad news to someone you love, and to stand there while it lands. The boy was about to learn that wisdom and comfort are not the same thing at all. But that meeting, the boy and the old man, the truth and the grief, deserves the slow and careful telling that the next part of the story will give it. For now, the boy stands at the threshold, gathering himself, and the worst has not yet been spoken. Rest here a while. At the edge of the telling, you have seen the great turn of the story now, the burn, the taste, the flood of wisdom, the grief. The boy who was nameless is something new tonight, and the cost of it is about to be paid. Let the fire sink to embers in your mind. Let the river run slow. The boy will knock, and the old man will wake, and the truth will be told, but gently, and not yet. There is no need to carry it all tonight, only rest by the warm, low fire. Think back, for a moment, over all that has brought us here. A father lost before his son could speak. 2 women hiding a boy in the hills. An old poet trading his whole life for a fish, and a single drop of fat on a single thumb in the dark. All of it led here, to a boy at a threshold, full of a wisdom he never sought, grieving for the man he is about to wake. The old stories are made of chains like this, small thing leading to small thing until a whole world has quietly changed. And the boy himself? He is not proud of what has happened. He does not feel chosen or lucky or great. He feels only the heavy quiet of knowing too much too soon, and the love he still bears the man he must now disappoint. That is the truest measure of him. Given all the wisdom in the world, the first thing he chose to do with it was grieve for someone else. Not many would. Maybe that, in the end, is why the salmon was always meant for him. So we leave him at the door, hand raised, heart heavy, wisdom quiet in him like a deep, cold spring. The hardest words of his young life are waiting just on the other side of that thin woven door, but they can wait until tomorrow night. Let your breathing slow now, in time with the river's quiet. You do not have to follow the boy through that door tonight. The old man will sleep on, dreaming of his fish, until you are ready to hear how he wakes. There is no hurry here. There never was. We have crossed the great turning of the tale tonight. The boy has his wisdom. The poet's dream is lost, though he does not yet know it, and the river runs on, the way it ran before either of them was born, the way it runs still. Soon the old man will wake. Soon the truth will be spoken. Soon we will see what a person does when their whole life's hope has slipped, by no one's fault, into another's hands. That is a hard thing, and the way he meets it will surprise you. But all of that waits for the telling to come. For now the fire is embers, the fish is done, the boy is changed, and the old man dreams on. Let it rest there, whole and quiet, a held breath between the world that was and the world that will be. Rest now if you wish. We have come to the hinge of the whole story, and we have crossed it gently. The hardest and the most tender part is still ahead, the old man's waking and what he chooses to do. We will meet it together, slowly in time. And then the old man woke. Some change in the air had reached him in his sleep, some shift in the weight of the world. He sat up in the dark hut and called out softly to the boy, "Is it done? Is the salmon cooked?" And the boy stepped inside. The old man saw his face in the low ember light, and he stopped. Because something had changed in the boy, there was a stillness in him, a depth in the eyes that had not been there an hour before. The old man's heart went cold and quiet. "Boy," he said very low, "have you eaten any of the salmon?" And the boy did not lie. He never would have. He told him everything. The blister, the burn, the thumb, the taste he never chose, and the flood of wisdom that came after. The old man closed his eyes. 7 years. The whole of his late life crouched in the mud for this one fish, and it had passed him by in the dark, by the smallest of accidents, to a boy who wept even now to tell him. He sat with it. He said nothing. And in that long silence, in that dim hut by the river, the first great turn of our story comes to rest. The wisdom is given, the dream is lost. The truth is spoken, and what the old man will choose to do with his grief, that is the heart still to come. The silence in the hut stretched long. The boy stood with his head bowed, ready to bear whatever came. Anger, grief, blame. He would not have argued with any of it. He felt he deserved it all. But the old man did not rage. He did not blame. He simply lifted his head at last and looked at the boy with eyes that were wet and tired and strangely calm, and he asked him one quiet question. He asked him his name. His name, not Demne. The small word he had hidden behind. His true name. And the boy understood that the moment for hiding was over. The wisdom in him had already told him who he was. Now he would say it aloud, for the first time. "I am Fionn," he said. "Fionn, son of Cumhall, the fair one, the bright one." And as he said it, the old man let out a long, slow breath, because now he understood. The prophecy had said the salmon would fall to a fin, and here he was, Fionn. The old man almost laughed, a broken, wondering sound. All those years he had thought the prophecy meant him, Finnegas, the fair poet. But the name had been waiting for another Finn, this one, the fatherless boy who had wandered up his riverbank by chance. This is the cruelty of prophecies and their strange mercy too. They never lie, but they tell the truth in a shape you only see once it has already happened. Finnegas had read his own name into it for 7 years. The river had meant another all along. And now the old man faced the hardest choice of his life. Half the salmon remained untasted on the spit outside. The wisdom had gone to the boy, but might there still be some left in the flesh of the fish? Might he still claim a portion of his dream? But the old man already knew the answer. His wisdom of years had taught him this. Even without the salmon, the gift goes whole, or not at all. The first taste takes everything. There was nothing left in the fish now but supper. The wisdom was the boy's. And here's the moment that makes Finnegas one of the quiet heroes of the old tales. He did not curse the boy, he did not grieve aloud or rage at the unfairness of it. He looked at Fionn, and he made a choice that cost him everything and gave him peace. He said, "Then it was always meant for you. Here is the part of the story that people remember. Stay with it." The old man rose and led the boy outside to the cold salmon on the spit and told him to eat. The whole of it, every last flake. The boy protested. He could not. It was the old man's fish, the old man's years, the old man's dream. But Finnegas only shook his head. "The wisdom is already in you," he said. "The fish is only flesh now. Take its strength. You will need it for the road ahead." And so the boy ate. Slowly, reverently, by the dying fire, with the old man sitting beside him in the dark. It was the strangest meal of either of their lives, a dream and its loss shared between them, flake by flake, in the deep quiet of the night. When it was done, the old man spoke again, and now there was something almost like relief in his voice. 7 years he had carried the weight of that waiting. Now the waiting was over, not the way he had dreamed, but over, and there is a peace in an ending. "I am an old man," he said. "What would I have done with all the knowledge in the world? at the end of my days. But you are young. You have a destiny waiting. The wisdom will not sit idle in you. It will go out into the world and do good. That is better." The boy wept again to hear it, not from guilt now, but from the size of the gift. The old man had lost everything and chosen to call it a blessing for the boy's sake. That is a rarer kind of wisdom than any fish can give, and Fionn never forgot it. They sat together until the fire was gray ash and the sky began to pale in the east. Neither slept. They simply stayed, the old man and the boy, on the last night they would share as teacher and student. By dawn, everything between them had quietly changed. But here's where the story turns again, because the wisdom in Fionn was not only a gift, it was also a weight and a danger. It showed him things he did not wish to see, and it told him, that very dawn, that he could not stay by the river much longer. For the wisdom had shown Fionn his own future. It had shown him the men who had killed his father, still alive, still powerful. It had shown him a great band of warriors waiting for a true leader, and it had shown him that his quiet days were ending. This is the new shape of the danger. Not a monster, not a battle, yet, but a destiny. Pressing in, the wisdom had made Fionn ready for the world, and now the world would come for him. The peace of the riverbank could not hold him much longer. The old man saw it in him. He had taught the boy long enough to read his face, and he understood, with the same quiet grace as before, that he could not keep him. The river had given the boy his wisdom. Now the road would take him to use it. But he would not send him out empty. In the days that followed, the old man poured everything he had left into the boy. Not wisdom now, Fionn had that, but craft, skill, the shaping of the gift, so that it would serve him and not overwhelm him. For the wisdom did not come to Fionn whenever he wished. It came when he put his burned thumb to his mouth and bit down gently upon it. Only then did the knowing pour in. The old man taught him to use that carefully and never lightly. It was a strange and humble doorway to such a power. Not a crown, not a staff, not a sacred word, just a thumb and a small old burn. The old man smiled at that. The greatest things, he said, often hide behind the smallest doors. Remember that. And so the days by the river became a second kind of teaching. The old man showing the boy how to carry his gift without being crushed by it. How to know much and still stay kind. How to see far and still walk gently. The hardest lessons of all. But the wisdom in Fionn grew restless, and the danger in the world grew nearer. Each day when he bit his thumb, he saw the road more clearly. He saw the warriors who needed him. He saw the enemies who would not wait forever. The time was coming to go. He did not want to leave. He had found on this riverbank the first real home of his life. A teacher who had become a father in all but blood. But wisdom is a hard companion. It does not let you stay where it is comfortable. It pushes you toward what you are for. So we have come to a new turning. The wisdom is given. The dream is grieved and blessed. The craft is taught. And now the road calls. The next part of our story will follow Fionn out into the world to find his warriors, his destiny, and his own true name made whole. But that is a journey for the telling still to come. For now, let the boy stay a little longer by the river he loves. Let the old man teach him one more gentle lesson. Let the autumn light lie warm and gold on the water. There is no need to leave just yet. Rest here a while, by the gold water and the warm last days. You have traveled far into the story tonight. The hardest turn is behind us, and it ended not in bitterness but in grace. An old man's grief, made into a gift. Hold that gently as you drift. And so this part of the tale comes to its quiet close. The wisdom has found its keeper. The dream has found its peace, and the road has begun, softly to call. Sleep now if you wish. The journey onward will be waiting, warm and slow, whenever you return. The morning of the parting came soft and gray, the way the most important mornings often do. Fionn stood at the door of the little hut, his pack on his shoulder once more, but he was not the same boy who had arrived. He carried the wisdom of the world now. The old man came out to see him off. He leaned on his hazel staff in the doorway, and for a moment neither of them could find the words. What do you say to the person who gave you everything and lost everything to do it? In the end, the old man spoke first. Go well, Fionn, he said. Use what you have been given to make the world a little kinder, not a little crueler. That is the only test of wisdom that has ever mattered. And the boy held those words for the rest of his life. They did not embrace for long. The old man was not a man of long embraces, but Fionn felt the strength in those thin arms, and the love and the letting go. Then he turned and walked down the river bank, and did not let himself look back until the bend. At the bend he turned. The old man was still in the doorway, a thin gray figure against the wattle wall, his hand raised. Fionn raised his own, and then the river bent away, and the hut was gone, and the boy was alone again with the road and his gift. We will not dwell too long on the sorrow of it. The old man had found his peace, and the boy carried his blessing. And though they would not meet again in the way of the world, Fionn carried Finnegas with him always, in every wise and gentle thing he ever did. The road took him out of the river valley and up into open country. Green hills, low stone walls, far blue mountains. And as he walked, he tested his strange new gift, the way a person tests a new tool, carefully and with a little wonder. When he put his thumb to his tooth, the world unfolded. He knew the name of every hill and stream. He knew which path was safe and which led to bog. He knew the histories sleeping in the old gray stones. It was dizzying. He used it sparingly and walked on. But he learned quickly that the gift had a cost. To know everything is also to be unable to unknow it. He saw people's hidden sorrows in their faces. He saw the ends of things in their beginnings. The wisdom was a kind of loneliness, as well as a kind of light. He remembered the old man's blessing. Make the world a little kinder, so he began to use the gift that way. A wise word to a troubled farmer, a warning to a family camped too near a flooding stream. Small kindnesses given quietly, asking nothing back. Word of him began to spread, the way it does. A fair-haired young man on the roads, wise beyond his years, who helped where he could and asked for nothing. People did not know his name or his father's, but they remembered the kindness. And kindness travels. But the wisdom kept turning his face toward one place above all others, a green hill, far to the east, crowned with timber halls, the seat of the High King. Tara, something waited for him there. The gift told him, something he was born to do. And the wisdom told him something else too. It told him of his father, Cumhall, who had led the great warrior band called the Fianna. Cumhall betrayed and killed by men who craved his power, men who still held it now and still feared his blood. A lesser man, given that knowledge, might have walked toward revenge. Fionn felt the pull of it, the old debt of blood, the men who had made him fatherless and nameless. But the old man's words held him. Kinder, not crueler, he would not let the wisdom curdle into hate. So he set his face toward Tara, not for vengeance, but for something larger. He would claim his father's place, not to settle old scores, but to lead the Fianna as they were meant to be led, to protect, not to plunder. The wisdom showed him this was possible, barely. The journey to Tara took many days. He walked through forests and fords, past hill forts and holy wells, and everywhere, quietly, he kept doing the old man's work. A wise word here, a gentle warning there. The legend of the fair young stranger grew with every mile. He met others on the road who, like him, were drawn toward Tara. Young warriors, wanderers, people looking for a cause worth giving themselves to. And something in Fionn, the wisdom, the kindness, the quiet sureness, made them want to walk beside him. He did not ask them to follow. He never asked anyone for anything. But people followed all the same. That is a rare kind of leadership, the kind that draws others not by command, but by the simple gravity of a good and steady heart. Maybe you have known someone like that. But as he drew near Tara, the wisdom showed him a shadow over the royal hill, a danger that came every year, that no warrior had ever stopped. The High King's seat lay under a curse, and Fionn understood with a cold certainty that he had arrived just in time to face it. We will come to that danger soon. But first, let us rest a moment on the road, with the young leader and his small band, in the warm evening light before the great test. They do not yet know what waits at Tara. For now, there is only the road and the firelight and good company. That night by the fire, the others asked him who he was. He had kept his name behind his teeth so long, but the time for hiding was past. I am Fionn, he told them, son of Cumhall, who led the Fianna, and the warriors fell silent, for they knew that name. Cumhall's son, they murmured, the lost heir. Some of them had fathers who had ridden with Cumhall long ago. Some had grown up on tales of the Fianna's golden days before the betrayal. And now here was the son, fair-haired and wise, sitting at their own small fire. From that night, his band was no longer just travelers on a road. They were the first of a new Fianna, gathering around a true heir. They did not all understand it yet, but they felt it. Something old and good was beginning again, and they wanted to be part of it. But Fionn knew the truth, the others did not. He could not simply claim his father's place. The men who had killed Cumhall still held power at Tara. To win the Fianna, he would have to prove himself, and he would have to do it by facing the very danger no one else could. The wisdom had shown him the danger clearly. Each year, at the great feast of Samhain, when the doors between the worlds stood open, a creature came out of the other world and burned the royal halls of Tara to the ground. No king could stop it, no warrior could stay awake to face it. For the creature had a weapon no spear could match. It played a soft, sweet music, a fairy music that no mortal could resist. Every warrior who tried to guard the halls fell helplessly asleep at the sound of it, and then the creature breathed its fire, and Tara burned again. Year after year it had come. Year after year the king had rebuilt his halls, only to lose them again, and the king had made a promise, in his desperation. Whoever could stop the creature and save Tara would be granted command of the Fianna itself, the very thing Fionn sought. And so Fionn understood his path. To win his birthright, he would have to do what no warrior had ever done. He would have to stay awake against a music made to drown all waking, and the wisdom, for all its depth, did not yet tell him how. He would have to find that himself. He came at last to the foot of the royal hill. He left his band below and climbed alone toward the timber halls. For this trial, he understood, was his to face, not theirs. Some doors you must walk through by yourself. He had learned that long ago, in the hills. At the top, he came before the High King himself, a tired man, gray with too many burned halls behind him. Fionn knelt and named himself, and offered to stand guard that very night, the night of Samhain, when the creature would come again. The king looked at him a long moment. He saw the fair hair, the steady eyes, the quiet sureness. He did not know it was Cumhall's son, or perhaps he did and chose, in his weariness, not to say. He simply nodded. "Guard my halls tonight," he said, "and we shall see." As the light failed, the court withdrew behind barred doors, as they did every year, and left the young stranger alone to his hopeless watch. They expected to wake, as always, to ash and ruin. None of them believed he would last the night, but Fionn was not like the others. For Fionn had a plan. Before the court withdrew, an old warrior had come to him in secret, one who had served his father, and recognized the son. He had given Fionn a gift, a spear with a deadly point, wrapped tightly in cloth, and he had told him its strange and secret use. When the fairy music begins, the old warrior had said, "Press the bare blade of this spear to your forehead. Its point carries a fierce and burning pain, a pain so sharp that no sleep, not even fairy sleep, can hold against it. Let the pain keep you waking, it is the only way." It was a hard kind of plan, to stay awake by holding pain against your own skin. But Fionn understood it. He of all people knew how a small sharp hurt could change everything. A burned thumb had given him the wisdom of the world. Now a spear's bite would help him keep it. So he took his place before the halls, the wrapped spear in his hand, and he waited in the cold dark. The stars wheeled overhead, the fires of Samhain burned on the distant hills, and somewhere, beyond the thin veil of the night, the creature stirred and began to come. And then, faint and far at first it came, the music, soft and sweet and impossibly lovely, drifting out of the dark like the memory of a dream you never wanted to wake from. It curled around the young man's heart, and his eyelids grew heavy as stone. This was the moment that had defeated every warrior before him. The music was made to be unresistible, already. Fionn felt himself sinking, his knees softening, the warm dark of sleep rising up to take him as it had taken all the rest. But he remembered the spear. He tore the cloth from the blade. He pressed the bare, cold point hard against his forehead, and the pain that leapt through him was bright and fierce and waking, and it burned the fairy music away like sun burning off mist. His eyes flew open. He was awake, and he would stay awake. Here's a thing worth pausing on. Twice now, a small sharp pain has saved Fionn, and a thumb to the mouth has unlocked his gift. Stay with that. It runs all through the old Irish tales, this pattern of the body's small axe, opening great doors. In the old stories, Fionn's wisdom always comes the same way. He bites the thumb that touched the salmon, and the knowing pours in. The tellers called it the thumb of knowledge, a small, strange bodily ritual, wisdom summoned not by thought, but by touch. The old Irish loved this idea that the deepest truths live close to the body, not far away in the sky. Wisdom in a fish, knowledge on a thumb, waking found in a spear's cold kiss. The sacred in their tales was always near at hand, closer than you think. And there is comfort in that, even now. You do not have to climb a mountain to touch something true. Sometimes it is as near as your own breath, as near as the pillow beneath your head, as near as the slow, quiet wisdom of letting the day go and resting. So when you hear of Fionn's thumb, think of all the small near things that hold their own quiet wisdom. And now, with that in mind, let us return to the hill of Tara, where the young man stands awake at last, spear in hand, as the creature itself comes into the open. Out of the dark it came, a tall, pale shape from the other world, glowing with a cold light, still playing its sweet and treacherous music. It had come 100 times to a sleeping hill. It had never once come to a waking man, and it did not understand what it now saw. The creature played harder, pouring out its sweetest music, the music that had felled 100 guards. But Fionn pressed the spear's point to his brow, and the pain held him waking, and the music broke against him like water against a stone. He did not fall. He stepped forward. The creature, alarmed, did what it always did when its music failed. It drew its breath to loose its fire, the fire that had burned Tara 100 times. But Fionn was waking, and ready, and quick. Before the flames could come, he raised his father's old warrior's spear. And here, the old stories say, Fionn made a choice that showed the wisdom in him was more than knowing. The creature was not evil, only bound to its yearly burning by an old otherworld doom. Fionn saw this in the clear light of his gift, and so he did not strike to kill. He struck instead to break its power. He drove it back, and held his cloak against the rising fire, and quenched the flames before they could touch the halls. And he pursued the fleeing creature through the dark, not in fury, but to make sure this time it could never come again. This is the darkest and most decisive hour of the tale. Let it breathe. Across a dark hill, a young man chases an ancient doom, holding pain to his own skin to stay awake, choosing mercy where others would have chosen rage. He is everything his father was, and something more. He ran the creature down at the edge of the other world's threshold, where the veil was thinnest, and there, with his father's spear, he ended the long curse, swiftly and without cruelty. The yearly burning of Tara was over. It would never come again. As the first gray light touched the hill, Fionn walked back up toward the halls. He carried the proof of his deed, and behind him, for the first time in living memory, the dawn rose over a Tara that had not burned in the night. The long curse was broken. The court came out at dawn, braced as always for ash and ruin, and they found, instead, their halls standing whole, and a fair-haired young man waiting quietly in the dawn light, weary but unbroken. For a moment none of them could believe what their eyes were telling them. Then the wonder broke into joy. The king came forward and looked at the young man, and understood at last who he must be. Only Cumhall's blood could have done this, and the king kept his promise. He named Fionn the new leader of the Fianna, before all his court. And the warriors of the Fianna, even those who had served the men who killed his father, knelt to him. They had seen what he had done. They had seen the mercy in it as well as the courage, and they knew in their bones that here at last was a leader worth following. What of the men who had killed his father? They were there in that court watching their power pass to the son of the man they had betrayed. The wisdom told Fionn exactly who they were. The old debt of blood lay open before him. He could have called for their deaths with a word. But he remembered the old poet's blessing. Kinder, not crueler. He looked at the men who had made him fatherless, and then he made the hardest and wisest choice of all. He chose peace over vengeance. He would lead them, not destroy them. The blood debt ended with him. That, the old stories say, was the truest sign that the salmon's wisdom had found its right keeper. For knowledge alone can serve revenge as easily as mercy. It was the kindness in Fionn, married to the wisdom, that made him great. The old poet had known, he had always known. And so Fionn mac Cumhall took his place at the head of the Fianna, the fatherless boy, hidden in the hills, who had wandered up a riverbank by chance. He had crossed the whole long road from nameless child to great leader, and it had begun, all of it, with a burned thumb in the dark. We have come to the great triumph of the tale. But triumphs in the old stories are never quite the end. Let us rest here a while, in the warm morning of Fionn's victory, before we follow him on into the long bright years that the wisdom would carry him through. If your eyes are heavy now, let the triumph carry you gently down towards sleep. The boy has become the leader. The wisdom has found its purpose. The curse is broken, and the halls stand whole in the morning sun. It is a good place to rest. Few stories reach so warm a height. In the years that followed, Fionn led the Fianna into their golden age. They guarded the land, kept the peace, and hunted in the great forests. And whenever Fionn faced a riddle too deep for any man, he would put his thumb to his tooth, and the salmon's wisdom would answer. He became famous throughout Ireland, not only for his strength, but for his fairness. He judged disputes wisely, he protected the weak, he kept his word. The wisdom of the salmon had become, in him, the wisdom of a good and steady leader, and the land flourished under it. And he never forgot the old man on the river. In the quiet evenings when the hunt was done and the fires were low, Fionn would sometimes tell his warriors the story of a poet who waited 7 years, of a fish, of a burn, and of a gift given freely against all fairness. He always told it the same way. He never made himself the hero of it. The hero, he said, was the old man, Finnegas, who had every right to bitterness and chose generosity instead. That, Fionn told them, was the wisest thing he had ever seen a person do. Wiser than any fish could teach. The years were long and bright, but they were not without sorrow. The wisdom that served Fionn so well also showed him, sometimes, things he wished he could not see. The far edges of his own story, the shadows waiting at the end of even the brightest age. He carried that knowing quietly. But that is the way of all wisdom, perhaps. It does not spare you sorrow, it only helps you carry it well. And Fionn carried his with the same grace the old man had taught him by the river. He kept living, he kept leading, he kept choosing kindness, day after day. And his fame only grew. Bards sang of him in every hall. Children learned his name before they learned their letters. The fatherless boy from the hills had become the greatest hero Ireland had ever known, and still at the heart of it all was a salmon, and a poet, and a burn. It is a strange and lovely thing, how the smallest beginnings grow into the largest tales. A burned thumb in the dark became a wisdom became a leader became a legend, and the legend became a story told by firelight for 3,000 years, including tonight. We are nearing the close of the journey now. Fionn has lived his bright years, led his Fianna, kept the old man's blessing. There remains only to bring the tale gently full circle, back to the river, back to the water, where the wisdom first came down from the hidden well. For in his later years, the stories say Fionn would sometimes return to the Boyne, to the very bend where the old man's hut had stood. He would sit on the bank by the dark pool and put his thumb to his tooth and simply remember. The fish, the fire, the friend. The hut was long gone by then. The old man, too, had passed into the quiet of the years. But the pool remained, and the hazels, and the slow dark water, and Fionn would sit there, the greatest hero in Ireland, and feel for a while like a boy again, learning, listening, grateful. And that is where the deepest part of the tale rests, not on the hill of Tara, in triumph, but here on a quiet bank, in memory and gratitude. The wisdom of the salmon, in the end, was not about power at all. It was about remembering where you came from and who gave you what you have. Rest here with him a while, by the old pool, in the soft light of a life well lived. The journey has been long tonight. The boy became a leader, the leader became a legend, and the legend at the end became a grateful old man by a river he loved. That is a gentle place to rest. There is a little more to tell of how the world remembered Fionn and how it remembers him still, but the hard climbing of the story is done. From here, the path runs gently downhill, toward sleep, toward quiet, toward the soft close of the night. Let the warm evening hold you. The great deeds are done. The curse is broken. The Fianna is led. The old man is honored. The river flows on. There is nothing left to fear in this story now. Only the long, gentle settling of a tale toward its rest, and you toward yours. Before we let the river carry us all the way down to sleep, there is one more thing worth pausing on. The way a story like this one travels, the way Fionn and his salmon and his thumb of wisdom came all the way down the long centuries to reach this very night. Because Fionn did not stay only in the old fireside tales. He grew, over the centuries, into one of the great heroes of all Irish legend. His name spread far beyond the bend of one quiet river, and his story changed and grew, as living stories do, with every voice that carried it. He became Fionn McCool, the giant of folk tales, said to have built a causeway of stone across the sea. He became a sleeping hero, who would wake in Ireland's hour of need. The boy with the burned thumb became many things to many tellers, but the salmon was always there at the root. Here's the last thing to understand before we drift down towards sleep: how one fish and one band of warriors became the beating heart of 1,000 Irish stories. Stay with this a moment. It is how a legend keeps living, long after the fire has gone cold. The tales of Fionn and the Fianna became known as the Fenian Cycle, one of the great treasures of Irish storytelling. Hundreds of tales, hunts and battles, loves and losses, riddles and wonders, and running through them all, the quiet thread of Fionn's hard-won, accidental wisdom. These tales were carried for centuries by voice alone, by the same long chain of poets the old man Finnegas belonged to, and later monks wrote them down with patient pens so that they would not be lost when the last firesides went dark. Both kinds of keeping mattered. And so the boy with the burned thumb outlived every fire he was ever told beside. He outlived the kingdoms and the kings. He outlived the old religion and the new. Because a good story, once truly loved, does not die. It only waits for the next voice to pick it up. Tonight that voice was mine, and these old images were yours. And so you too are now part of the long chain, the newest keeper of a tale 3,000 years old. Carry it gently. And now, let us turn back one last time toward the river and toward rest. We have traveled the whole arc of it now. The hidden boy, the waiting poet, the wisest fish in the world, the burn, the gift, the grief, the grace, the road, the curse, the mercy, the crown, and the long bright years, and the grateful old man by the river at the end. It is a story about wisdom, but not the wisdom of books or schools, the wisdom of knowing where you came from, of choosing kindness when you could choose cruelty, of giving freely what you waited a lifetime for, of holding a great gift gently. That is the salmon's true teaching. And it is a story about accident, too, about how the greatest gifts so often arrive sideways, unasked for, undeserved. None of us quite earns the best things that happen to us. We only choose, afterward, what to do with them. Fionn chose well, so perhaps can we? Let those thoughts rest lightly on you now, like a blanket settling. There is nothing to solve, nothing to remember, nothing to do. The story has given what it came to give. The rest is just the gentle drifting down, toward the quiet, toward the dark, toward sleep. We are very nearly at the close of our long journey together, just a little further down the gentle slope of the night. The river is slow, the stars are out, and the old story is folding itself away, like a blanket drawn up over a sleeping child. Think, if you like, one last time of the old poet by his river. He waited 7 years for a fish, lost it in a heartbeat, and gave away what was left with an open hand, and in giving it away, he became the truest hero of the whole long tale. Some doors open inward. And think of the boy who wept for his teacher before he ever thought of himself, who chose mercy over vengeance with all the wisdom of the world to guide him either way. The salmon found the right keeper. The old stories were sure of it, and so, by now, are we. The fire is low now. The story is nearly told. The river runs on in the dark, the way it always has, carrying its old wisdom down toward the sea, where it will rise as mist and fall as rain and run down again, forever. That is its own quiet kind of forever. You have come so far tonight, from your own tired evening all the way into the old world and back again. You crossed the threshold and walked the long road and met the boy, the poet, and the fish. And now you are nearly home again, soft in your own bed, ready to rest. There's only a little more, and it is the gentlest part of all. The slow letting go of the story, the soft goodnight by the river, the last quiet words before the dark. Let your breathing slow, let the river carry the last of the tale away downstream. Rest now. The hero is home, the wisdom is kept, the river flows on, and the old story, 3,000 years old and still warm, folds itself gently closed around you, like the safest hands in the world. We are almost at the end, and the end is only quiet. And so we come to the last image of our long tale. Not a battle, not a crown, but this. An old man and a boy on a riverbank long ago. One gives away the dream of his life. The other receives it, weeping, and vows to use it well. That is the whole of it. Everything else, the curse broken, the Fionn led, the legend spread across 3,000 years, all of it flows out from that one quiet moment on the bank, from one man's generosity and one boy's grateful heart, the greatest things hidden behind the smallest doors. It is a good place to end, not at the height of triumph, but at the source of it, with kindness given and kindness received, on a quiet bank, by slow dark water, under leaning hazels heavy with the wisdom of the world. Hold that picture as you drift. The fire has burned to embers. The river runs on, slow and dark and patient. The hazels lean over the water, dropping their crimson nuts of wisdom into the deep, one by one, as they have always done, as they will always do, long after we are all asleep. And there we will leave it, the river, and the hazels, and the slow-falling nuts, and the old quiet gift of wisdom passing gently from the water to whoever is meant to receive it. The story is told, the night is deep, and there is only a little farewell left ahead. So what does it mean, this old story of a fish and a burn? Let us sit with it gently now, here in the quiet, and see what it holds. First, the salmon itself. To the old Irish, the salmon was the oldest and wisest of creatures, swimming up from the deep source of all things. The salmon swims against the current, upstream, toward its source. Perhaps that is what wisdom is, the will to go back toward where things begin. Then the hazel. 9 old trees, dropping their nuts into the well. The Irish believed wisdom grew slowly, like a tree, and fell like fruit when it was ready. Wisdom that grows like a tree cannot be rushed. It takes its seasons. It falls only when it is ready. The old man knew that. He waited 7 years. And the 7 spots on the salmon's side, one for each nut it ate. Wisdom, the story says, leaves a mark on you. You carry it visibly, forever. Then the burned thumb, the smallest, strangest symbol of all. Wisdom did not come to Fionn through study. It came through an accident and a little pain. Maybe that is the deepest truth in it. So much of what we learn by accident and by pain. The burns of life become our wisdom, and the thumb to the mouth, ever after, to find wisdom, Fionn had to touch the wound again. Knowing always asks us to revisit where it hurt. Then the old poet's choice. He waited a lifetime, lost it all, and gave the rest away gladly. That is the story's truest wisdom, beyond any fish. For the salmon's knowledge could have served revenge as easily as mercy. Knowing is not the same as goodness. The story quietly insists on the difference. It mattered who received the gift, not the one who wanted it most, the one who could hold it most gently. The story chose the gentle heart. And the river beneath it all, wisdom flowing down from a hidden source, through the land, to whoever waits at the right bend at the right hour. Perhaps that is a comfort. The wisdom is still flowing, it has not run dry, it is still moving down the dark river, toward whoever is ready. The old Irish did not write these meanings down as lessons. They wrapped them in a story so they would be felt, not taught. That is the gentler way. And so you do not have to remember any of it. The meaning has already done its quiet work, simply by being felt, here tonight in the dark. A boy who wept for his teacher, an old man who gave away his dream, a fish that carried the wisdom of the world. These are the things to keep. Wisdom that comes by accident, greatness that comes from kindness, gifts too heavy to deserve, held gently anyway. The old story knew us better than we know ourselves. Let it rest in you now, without effort. There is nothing to hold on to. The river holds it for you. It always has. It always will. And so the meaning of it settles, soft as falling hazelnuts on dark water. We have nearly reached the end. Only the legacy and the long goodnight remain. This old story did not stay in the past. It is still alive in Ireland today, woven into the land itself, into names and places and gentle habits of speech. The river Boyne still flows broad and slow through the green heart of Ireland. People walk its banks today, where the old poet once waited for his fish. And Fionn himself never faded. As Fionn McCool, he became the giant of countless folk tales, his name known to children all across Ireland and beyond. They say he built the great causeway of stone columns across the northern sea, the Giant's Causeway, where the basalt steps still march into the water today. And the tales of his Fianna, the Fenian cycle, became one of the great treasures of Irish literature. Hundreds of stories, all flowing from that one burned thumb. The thumb of knowledge lived on too. To this day, in Irish, a flash of sudden insight can still be linked to Fionn and to that small, strange gesture of wisdom. Poets and writers have returned to him for centuries. His name echoes through Irish verse, through novels, even into the names of modern places and people. And the salmon itself remains a symbol of wisdom in Ireland, carved, painted, remembered. The wisest fish in the world still swims through the country's imagination. So when you walk an Irish riverbank and the light lies gold on slow water, you are standing inside this story. It never really left, it only waited there, quietly. And tonight, by hearing it, you have joined the long line of keepers. The story is yours now too. Carry it gently, and now let us say our goodnight. The fire is embers now. The river runs slow and dark. The old story is told, and the night is gentle all around you. The hazels lean over the dark pool, dropping their slow crimson nuts, the wisdom of the world falling gently into the water all night long. Somewhere far off, another story is already stirring. Somewhere colder, older, where the sea is gray and the wind has teeth. But that is for another night. Something is waiting there in the dark. You can almost hear it. Not tonight. Tonight, only rest. For now, let the slow river carry you down. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to hold, only the soft dark and rest. We open one old story slowly each week. No test, no hurry, just somewhere quiet to land. We'll be here when you're ready. The hazels keep their slow watch. The river keeps its slow song. The old wisdom keeps falling, soft as rain, into the dark. Let your breath go slow now, in time with the water, in and out, slow and deep. The river breathes with you. The story is safe now. The river will keep it. You do not have to carry anything. Just let the dark grow soft and deep. Sleep now. The river flows on, the hazels lean low, and the old gentle wisdom keeps watch over you all night long. Good night.